All right, so I've got a basic bear. He bounces off walls. That's very exciting, but there's no tension. I mean, I can bounce off walls until I go crazy, but I would like there to be an enemy chasing me instead. So I'm going to create a sprite for this, and this sprite is going to be a diamond, because diamonds hate bears. So, diamond underscore s. Create an object, diamond underscore o, so that it has a unique name which is different from the sprite. So this guy, I want him to move towards my bear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a step event. So just a reminder of how GameMaker works. 30 times a second, one step is taken. It checks to see whatever keys you've pressed. It moves everything, checks for collisions, redraws the screen. Repeat over and over and over. 30 times a second, in fact. So this guy, every step, needs to move towards the bear. Okay, so I want to move towards a bear. How do I do that again? Move towards point in drag and drop was creating, moving. There it is, move towards point. So move towards point requires three things separated by commas: the x position I want to go to, the y position, and the speed. And if you feel like dealing with the advanced ones, then you have to deal with step towards or step avoiding. By the way, step size is basically speed in that case. I'm going to use move towards point. So in my game, he needs to move towards a particular point. Move underscore towards. Hey, there's the rest of it. Notice down here at the bottom, it says x, y, sp. So it's actually helping to prompt me for the three things I need in the parentheses. So I need something, comma, something else, comma, and the last parenthesis. All right, so this part, the x, that's the bear's x position I'm moving towards. So my bear's name is bear underscore o. His x variable is then period x. So you use period and then which variable you're talking about inside a particular object there. Bear underscore o dot y is the next part. The last part is speed. 3, why not? By the way, spaces largely don't matter. I mean, they matter in the names, and they matter in the variable names. However, within the code otherwise, generally speaking, it doesn't matter that much. So move towards point. I'm going to move towards my avatar's x, my avatar's y, with a speed of 3. Into the room you go, diamond. There we go. By the way, let's say that I misspell something. I'm going along here and I'm like bear underscore dot x. Besides the fact that it's not highlighted, if I try and run this, it's like, choke, die. This is an error message. So notice that it's trying to tell you some information about where the error actually happened. So right here, notice the little caret underneath it. It says, hey, something here doesn't work. It doesn't know what variable bear underscore is. So it's assuming that you're putting in a variable name, which is bear underscore. And it's like, you don't have one of those. Now what's happened is I've misspelled the name of an object, but that's what it's trying to point out, is that in this particular line is where it broke. And in particular, if I have lots of objects and lots of lines of code, it's in the diamond, in its step event, the very first thing in there. And it's on line 1. So you can use this to trace down exactly where the error is occurring. Now, occasionally it will be because some other line caused that error to happen, which is why you need to test it a lot. Because if you put in 20 lines of code and it breaks, one of those 20 lines broke. If you put in one line of code and it broke, that line broke. So you can trace it a lot faster. So it's a good idea to constantly test your code as often as you can. Bear underscore, what kind of fool put that in? Bear underscore o. Okay, there we go. Objects I want to collect for points. So I'm going to create a sprite for that. Bears obviously collect money, because everyone collects money. Money underscore s. Create an object. Money underscore o. Has that sprite. This guy sits there. He does nothing. So I'm done with him. However, the bear is going to do something once I collide with it. So I'm going to throw some money in the room just for now, just to make sure it works. All right. I'm going to put most of my code inside the bear, just so I don't have to look all over creation for where I put my code. So I'm going to say collision with the money. All right, so there's a couple things I need to do here. The first thing is I need to add to my score. Score is a built-in variable. By the way, it's also global, which means if I refer to it in any object, it's all changing the same variable. So if I just say score equals 5, that doesn't quite do what I want. That sets my score to exactly 5. That's not good enough. What I want to do is I want to add to my score. So one way I can do that is I can say score equals score plus 5. So what that does is it figures out the right side of the line. It figures out whatever my score variable is, adds 5 to it, and then assigns it into the left side. So it reassigns it back into the score variable. There's a shortcut for this as well. So if I do plus equals 5, these two lines do exactly the same thing. So I'm going to comment that one out. Otherwise, I would add 10 points, which is not what I want. However, keep in mind those two are equivalent. Now I want to destroy the money. Well, there's this command, instance underscore destroy. Now, there's a problem with instance destroy, though. Instance destroy has nothing in the parentheses. I'm not allowed to say instance destroy other, which is kind of what I want here. So how do I do that? Because I could say other here just because score happens to be a global variable and it wouldn't matter, but there's a better way to do it. What I can do is I can use a special keyword called with. And in particular, what I want to say is with other. And I'm going to use curly braces, which are different than parentheses, by the way, though they look very similar to human eyes, and put that around instance destroy. The with statement does something very special. What it does is it takes other and briefly makes it self within these parentheses. So the other thing becomes self and then destroys itself. Now, this is kind of a tricky thing for this. It becomes more useful later on when we need to do all of a particular object. So if I want to destroy all of the money objects, what I could do is I could say with money underscore O in the parentheses. And that would make every single one of the money objects self, and it would go through every single one in the game. So the with statement basically goes through every object that's in the parentheses and does the commands in the braces. So notice these curly braces. What that does is that's defining how much of the block of code applies to the other guy. So if I wanted to do some command after this, but I want it to apply to the bear again, I would do that command after I'm done with this curly brace here. So notice the blue highlighting here. That helps you to be able to figure out which braces go together. So parentheses are used for commands, like instance destroy here. They're also used to define which objects you're talking about. So with has parentheses, and later on we'll get to an if statement, which also has parentheses. And then the curly braces, those guys there, define blocks of code. This is exactly like the start block and the end block, the little up triangle and the down triangle that we had in drag and drop. Exactly the same function. Does it work? It does. It's almost like I've done this before. Many, times. All right.